Whoever's listening, guys, welcome back and welcome to a long overdue episode of the Man with a Plan podcast. It's been a busy month or so, but I thought, man, there's nobody more perfect to bring us back into a weekly routine than my guy, Mac Lain, ACC Network analyst, Clemson football player. Y'all know the drill. He brings the energy. If y'all checked our episode out around August, right before the season started, we covered a multitude of things, including our predictions for the football season. As we're going to get into, we probably weren't exactly on the mark with Clemson, but nonetheless, we're still here to talk some ACC football, some Clemson Tigers, and a bunch of other things. So, Eric, welcome to the show, man, and welcome back. You're the first repeat guest of this semester.
Number one, let's go, baby. I like that. I like first repeat guest. Thanks for having me. A little bit has happened since the last time we spoke, but we were going to do this last week leading into the game. And I'm glad we kind of, we're like, let's just wait and see. Well, let's wait and see because the vibes, the energy, a lot better than what it would have been then. So I'm glad we waited.
Well, my thinking was I'm really glad now that you said let's wait because I feel like the conversation around Clemson football, and I don't want to be like always be trying to be way too positive, but man, it's like beating a dead horse around here with Clemson football. So I just thought, man, this is a perfect opportunity, especially given the circumstances of the win over Notre Dame. So let's just jump right into that, Eric. I would love to just start with your impressions from Saturday. Things that jumped out to me, it felt like the script had finally flipped in Clemson's favor. Notre Dame outgained them on the stat sheet. You say, oh, Notre Dame outgained Clemson by, I think, 50 yards. They might have won, but the turnover margin, Clemson ended up winning in that side. They're able to contain Sam Hartman in this offense. Phil Maffa had a career day in every way, shape, and form. So, Eric, what really stood out to you with this Clemson team, especially sitting at 4-4? There might maybe be some stuff in the locker room. Oh, we don't have much to play for, but they come out and they take care of business against a top 15 team.
Yeah, man, it was great to see that, number one. And you have to give so much love and shout out to those fans. I kind of want to see your perspective of it too, but it sounds like they were just rocking and rolling and exciting. And of course, I heard Coach Dabo Swinney talk about this, but how they impacted the game. So there's no question that Clemson family showed up and showed out, which we always appreciate, and I always did as a player. But looking at this game, man, it was so interesting because, we're getting into the week. Clemson's lost 2 in a row, and just the ways that this team has lost have been so bizarre and just so weird, quite frankly, where you're looking at and you're just like, what is going on? And it's just, bad vibes and frustration and all these different things. And then we get to this Notre Dame week, and come Wednesday, all these people are picking Clemson to win. And I'm just like, have you not seen this team these last couple of weeks? Like, what do you know that I don't know? I mean, this is just bonkers. And so I'm noticing that, like, the Barstools of the world, some ESPNers of the world, just all over social media. And I'm just like, this is weird. I must be overthinking this. And then we get to close to game day, and the injury list comes out, and all these names are on there, and you're just like, who is available? Like, who's playing in the game? That's probably a better list to look at that. And Clemson, I'm throwing Walker Parks in this, but Clemson, down 3 offensive linemen. And you're just like, what's about to happen? I mean, they're going to have to throw the ball 50 times, roll the pocket out, all these different things. Will Shipley's not playing. All these things that are leading up to it. And you're just like, this is not going to be good. The guys go out there and run for nearly 200 yards and just dominate. I mean, that offensive line by far and away had their best game of the year. The model of consistency, not giving up pressures. The one sack that they had, Phil Maffa screaming wide open on a drag route for a 30-yard gain. We just got to throw it to him. And Cade takes the sack there. So those guys played unbelievable. You have to give a shout out to Howard and Sewell there, the 2 guards. I don't know when they got told they were starting, but they were ready. And I thought they played out of their minds. I thought that, Putnam played really well as well in the center there. So those 3, to me, players of the game, outside of Maffa, who obviously had a career day, and really kind of the a little bit of scheme adjustment, fine tuning, I would say, to a standpoint. Not a lot of gap scheme at all. I think of the 43 rushes, maybe 5 or 6 of them were kind of a gap scheme type deal. Looked like a lot of zone. Not zone read, a lot of zone, handed off inside, outside. And I thought our guys did perfect with that. It wasn't a lot of movement. It wasn't a lot of guessing who's going where, who's pulling. It was just, hey, we're all going to the right. Follow us if you want to. And they did an unbelievable job. And, of course, that is certainly helped by a guy in Phil Maffa who just ran the ball so well. Just got a feel for it as the game went on. I mean, his jump cuts, his vision, his strength, keeping the legs going. And then, of course, to have a couple of 40, 30-plus yard runs, one for a touchdown, one play drive is, just freaky. So I love the game plan, much unexpected. And the execution was it was fun to watch, man, because Clemson kicked their ass.
It had to be great for you as a former offensive lineman to just go see those guys out there. And what felt like to me, and what Dabo pointed out at the post-game press conference, is just simplified. It's just, if we can get a hat on a hat with a guy like Phil Maffa, who's capable of taking any run into a home run hit, just to see them go out there and do what they did, especially for the last 2 weeks, it felt like they couldn't get anything going on the ground, whether it was Shipley or Maffa for that matter. So to get that at home, to jump out early to a lead, I thought that was so important, to just get that belief of, hey, this might not be the season we wanted. And Dabo says this is the race we wanted to run, but it's our race. So to get out there and get that early start, and then obviously capitalize on turnovers, just everything that hasn't gone right for Clemson this year, it was flipped into their benefit.
Yeah, no, it was nice. And one more thing on offense before I kind of move to the defense, and it was to the point you just said there, that simplification. It does kind of just that's what you should do, with a young team, with this team. Just run it, man, and get a hat on a hat, get those targets. And one thing that's been interesting, even in this game, there was probably 4 or 5 instances of this, but what you find is guys get so locked in and so over eager to go and get their linebacker. Like, you'll see the offensive line, they stand there and they point, okay, this is our guy, we're doubling up, kind of a duo look here. And guys will get so eager to go to that they forget that if you don't move this dude right in front of you, that doesn't matter, because it's going to get blown up right here. And you saw, for the most part, they did a great job. But even still, and this is across college football, this is not just a Clemson thing in any shape or form or fashion, but it's like offensive line rooms just need to take a step back and remember, if I don't remove this point of attack player, we're not going anywhere. Just slow down, calm down, understand what you're doing. And that's something that, if you can really key on that and get that movement, like, take him to that guy. Don't touch him and then, break off. Move that guy backwards. And for the most part, Clemson did do that. So that was fun to see. Defense is, as you said, it's one of those things that as I get farther away and I look even more into it, I'm kind of like, this wasn't the greatest day actually for the defense. Like, they gave up a bunch of chunky plays. Like, and I know they kept them out of the end zone for the most part, but I mean, there was like 8 or 9 20-plus yard plays. That's pretty uncharacteristic of Clemson. I don't know if it's MAs or busts or missed tackles or what, but that was really weird. But what I will say about the defense, it was very opportunistic. Like, they got the ball, they scored, get the football, sack, fumble, a couple of interceptions there. But something you just got to key in on those big plays, man. They'll absolutely kill you. And guys continuing to do their jobs at a high level. I know a lot of young guys out there. Some exciting things, that you saw from young players that will obviously have to be stars next year and in the short-term future, that did get an opportunity and I thought did really well. And, of course, Jeremiah Trotter, I mean, just a freaky dude, one of the best in the country. We have so many great linebackers in the ACC. This first team is going to be difficult to get on there. I certainly think that he should be. But there's some great play, and he's right up there at the top.
Absolutely. And the way you mentioned opportunistic, it felt like, there might be a Sam Hartman 30-yard scramble that I don't think I've ever seen him really do in his collegiate career, or a little drag route that goes 30, 25 yards. But when they needed to get those stops, they did. It was short yardage situations. It was stopping them in the red zone, forcing only 3 points. But something that Dabo pointed out at halftime that I felt really carried in the second half was that each phase of the ball, whether it was offense, special teams, or defense, they're playing a complete game. I think Swanson, and I think you had Klubnik's pooch punt into this, 5 straight punts inside that pinned Notre Dame inside their own 15. That really, when they were starting to figure it out, it felt like, man, that was the moment you needed from that facet of the game. It felt like each side really complemented each other, something I haven't seen in really a long time, Eric, on this Clemson team.
No, that is a great point. And, Aiden, forgive me for not bringing that up earlier in my opening remarks. He punted his tail off and he was a weapon, and Clemson hadn't had that in a long time. A guy that's been able to absolutely flip the field, but also pin guys deep. He had 5 inside the 20 himself. I think he had 3 of those within the 10 and maybe even the 5 or 6 yard line around there. I mean, that is amazing. That's high level football when, you might be somewhere situationally where you're like, okay, we could go for this, or no, we're going to play the long game, pin those guys deep, let our defense really pin their ears back. He was fantastic. And then the decision where they looked like they were going for it and Cade kind of rolled out and kicked it. That was brilliant. I mean, that was really high level football, high level coaching, decision making that ultimately led them to the game here. And when you think about it that way, I mean, outside of this being Clemson's worst team in a long time, because that's what it is, I mean, it should have been a beatdown. They should have beat Notre Dame by 20 plus points. I mean, it's just, something where at the end of the day, they're kind of still fighting themselves. The fumble there, you're trying to end the game. The pick, going right through a guy's hands. So there's all these little things that are still there, but Clemson got it done. You got to be excited and, hope they can continue to build on it because Georgia Tech's coming to town this weekend. This is a team that is ascending, super fun offense that's all over the place, a mobile quarterback. Really kind of reminds me of like a 2012, 2013 South Carolina team with Connor Shaw kind of running around back there. So these guys have to be ready this coming weekend.
Yeah, and I just want to, you went to Atlanta this year for part of your all's ACC Network trip. Could you just elaborate on that trip, Georgia Tech's opponent, and just what you've seen from them overall this year? Because they've had some big wins this year. There was a running joke that they only won on even weeks, but they picked up a win last week. So
yeah, the one reason I picked against them and then they win by like 50. It's just unbelievable. It's typical ACC football. But no, we were down there for the North Carolina game. Obviously a Carolina team that was very good, amongst the best in the country. Offense is just, nuts, but that defense, it hadn't held up its end of the bargain. So, what you saw from Georgia Tech running it for like 350 yards on those guys, just really dominant on the ground. And ironically enough, Clemson playing both of those guys. So a little bit of a chess match there to watch those games for them. And they look great. Haynes King has been electric. I was talking with Roddy Jones a couple of days ago, and, he's making the argument squarely that Haynes King needs to be in the, ACC Player of the Year award watch list because he's second in total offense by himself. I mean, the yards that he's responsible for, he is an exceptional quarterback, man, that can really use his legs to hurt you. So this is a big test that Clemson's going to run into now. Being at the Valley, a little bit different. If Clemson can run the football and kind of channel this same game, Georgia Tech's defense has given up a lot of running to a lot of people. So we'll see if they can capitalize on that and maybe take it a little bit away from the Georgia Tech offense.
Yeah, and if I had told you, Eric, that in August when we were doing our first preview that Clemson, Georgia Tech, the winner goes to a bowl game, they get to clinch their spot, that would be certainly something. But I think I was able to talk to a Georgia Tech writer over the summer, and something that he was really high on was the culture that Brent Key has been able to establish here and bring to the Yellow Jackets. Just in any conversations you've had with him, what's really blown you away or impressed you about the way he carries himself and his vision for this program?
Yeah, no question, man. I love that guy. He's a Tech man, obviously, an offensive lineman, was a captain there. And so, he understands the challenges that come with being the head coach, being the head football coach at a place like Georgia Tech. And, I think he has done an unbelievable job. You see the ranked wins that he's been able to accumulate, right there in the mix of Georgia, Alabama, and Notre Dame. And there might be one other school in there. But when you're in any conversations with those teams, obviously you're doing very well. And he's been able to do that. Now, consistency has been a thing that they continue to have to work on where, they get those big wins and then they lose to a Boston College or they lose to a Bowling Green. I mean, that's just unbelievable. And just, a little bit of lack of discipline by the players. I know the coaches are getting after it and, the things you have to do there, but they kind of shift who they are because they were really kind of slinging it around, being a kind of a go deep shot team early in the season. And then actually, funny enough, a lot like Louisville, they've found that, hey, we can run the football and we can control this game and really lean on teams and try to make it uncomfortable. So we've seen a little bit of an evolution from them and how they approach this thing.
Absolutely. And I think what really they bring to the table here against a Clemson team is going to be who's going to be able to be more consistent because it's been up and down for both of these squads. And so we're going to potentially, with Clemson, they have to win at least one of these last 3 to clinch a bowl game. Same thing for Georgia Tech. So there's a lot on the line for this matchup. I'm really excited to get back into the Valley for this one for sure. Do you have a quick maybe prediction or an X factor you want to give my audience for this game, Eric? I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, no, predictions with this Clemson team are dangerous. Matchup predictor has them like 81%. The line on this game's 14.5.
Oh man.
I know it's bizarre, man. Here's the deal. I mean, Clemson can physically dominate these guys. I don't think there's any question about it. But if they're not, ready, if they're not excited, engaged in the game, Georgia Tech has ran for 300 plus yards like 2 or 3 games in a row. So, it's not quite the team of old with the triple option, but they'll hit you right in the mouth, and you better get their quarterback Haynes King down. If he's extending plays, Eric Singleton is a true freshman wide receiver, super fast, ran like a 10-2 over the summer. I mean, he's blazing speed. So you got to be ready for him. But, being in the Valley is a little bit different. So I think Clemson gets the dub. That 14.5 is a little scary. I don't know where I'm going to lean with that one yet.
That was the same thing with me this weekend with Notre Dame at 2.5, 3.5. I was like, I'm not sure, but maybe Vegas, they always know something.
They know
we
something.
Don't.
That's right.
Maybe they need a certain Spartanburg resident to amp them up again.
Sure. Sure.
That's not my call. But Eric, I think what's fascinating about what you do is that you're a Clemson guy, but not only that, you get the opportunity to travel around the country and see all these other ACC squads, be able to travel to different games. We touched on that in the summer, but has there been a trip this season that's really fascinated you, or something that you maybe had circled on the calendar and it blew away our expectations, or maybe, I don't know about this one, and then bam, it's just right there for the environment for you to see?
Yeah, the politically correct answer, which actually is the true way I feel about it, man. I do not have a team, school, administration that I just don't like. Like we are very lucky in this conference to have a bunch of great people as coaches, as players, again, as I mentioned, as administrators, athletic directors, and so on. So it's been fantastic everywhere we go. I mean, the fans are great. The show has really been fun. The atmospheres, we've had great games. I mean, overtime games, last minute, touchdown victory games. We've been very lucky kind of, from a scheduling standpoint where we get to go. Always, obviously, it's fun to come home and to be at Clemson. We've done that once in the last 4 seasons. So that was great this year to be able to do that. Going and seeing Doak Campbell rocking. I mean, it hadn't been like that in a long time. So to be able to see that week 2 was great. Always love going to NC State, and they've made some great adjustments to their fan experience. A massive jumbotron, great light show that's really cool. And when they make that thing all red, it's pretty, cool looking there, and the sound system. So I do love going everywhere, man. One place I do want to go, and I don't know if we're going to get the opportunity this year or not, which is a shame, but I want to go to Louisville. I mean, that place is just fun. Obviously they're doing really well. It's a great city, a great place. So I wish we could get there. Again, I don't know if that's going to be the case or not. And then I would be remiss. I don't know how I left this out, but Lane Stadium, Virginia Tech, those people are crazy. They love their football. It doesn't matter if they're 0-10, or 10-0. They are juiced up, and that's one of the best environments in all of college football. That Inner Sandman, when they cut the music and everybody's just singing, it's incredible. So I think Clemson goes there next year. So as Clemson fans, definitely make that trip if you can, and go experience some Inner Sandman.
I think the last memory I have of Virginia Tech was 2017, because I think the last time they played there was a COVID year, so you don't have obviously the same environment. But
Hendon Hooker, man, Hendon Hooker couldn't even catch a snap. He was so cold, or something crazy. That was bizarre. That was so weird.
For sure. But I think I would love to just kind of hear about this year. And I think for me, every year, with whether it's adding on these responsibilities covering Clemson football and basketball, or whatever it is for Tiger Illustrated, and adding this on, is how the process continues to change. And for you, when you're doing your podcast or you're finding new stories to tell, where do you feel like this year your process has either grown or changed, especially within your coverage? Because I think it's just so fascinating to get a peek behind the curtain, because we all see the sound bites, the segments, the emotion and all that. But I think behind the scenes, when you're having to watch the tape, maybe having to prep or an interview, I think that stuff is more fascinating sometimes than the actual product on TV. So for you, where do you feel like your process has maybe changed or grown, or where you've maybe gotten better as an analyst this year?
Yeah, I have a 1-year-old now, so it changes a lot. It's something where, before, I did whatever I want time-wise. You figure it out and you crunch it, or out here just grinding, staring at this computer I'm looking at, talking right now to you, watching, whatever film, and, just making it happen. Now that there are time constraints, and you figure it out, and there are certain windows that you can or can't do stuff. So that has been a great challenge, a fun challenge, because obviously, being a dad there's nothing like it. It's absolutely amazing. But it is one of those things where, I can't just do whatever I want whenever I want. You got to be really intentional about how you set this thing and not messing around. Like if I have an hour, I've got an hour, and I've got to buzz through what I have to buzz through to get it done. So that's been a fun challenge, just to manage that and just the different things that pop up. Like Thursday, there's a massive women's basketball game, Iowa and Virginia Tech. Two top, whatever they are, 5-10 teams, two Final Four teams battling it out. And we're going to do some coverage up there. So I'm going up there, going to bring my wife, Kaki, going to bring our baby, Amelia. So that'll be her first ever basketball game, is seeing the greatest, players on earth up there. So just fun things like that. Being on the road, this is the first year that we're on the road every week. So that's a little bit of a different challenge and fun. I mean, you can't replicate, crowd energy. Like if we're in the studio, you're excited, good games, whatever. But there's nothing like walking out to thousands and thousands of screaming fans, good or bad, passionate, or upset with their team. So that's been amazing. And then even travel wise, man, I'm lucky because a lot of these schools are so close. I can just drive, so I can control what I can control, get back as soon as I need to. And so all that has been really fun. And then just from a content perspective, continuing to grow, talking about the podcast and, working with Kelly is absolutely amazing. And just further connecting with these players, with these coaches, with these, SIDs and support staff there, and continuing to grow our brand, as it has been a real joy. So it's fun to keep going. And I know it is for you too, and to kind of change with the times and, kind of adjust fire and just continue to grow.
And I see the podcast logo and the sponsorship in the back there. Make sure we got to plug that. I'll sure to drop it in the description because, Eric, you guys honestly do some great stuff. And you just recently had an interview with Clemson Basketball, who just picked up their first win of the season last night. Yeah. So, and your conversations with them and Brad Brownell, what have you learned about this team? And there's a lot. I think I put it in one of our stories last night. This is a really different team. It's a retooled roster. They brought in 4 transfers, most notably guys like Jack Clark, Joseph Garrard. It is a interesting new team. You lose Hunter Tyson and Brevin Galloway to the pros. And so it's like, how does this team that got so close find a way to improve? Because they had the 4 freshmen last year, didn't play much, but they're starting to find more comfort in their own skin. So what are you looking forward to watching this team, especially going into conference like the ACC? It's never easy.
Yeah. PJ Hall healthy. That's what I'm excited for, to see that guy be able to knock on wood this entire season, get up and down that floor and just be a monster, because it's time. And, he is a great player, first team preseason all ACC. Can he go above that? Can he get into that All-American conversation and really just explode? Because I think his game provides that, what he can do as a player. Obviously, I think Clemson's going to have a big year. You mentioned some of those key transfers that they have coming in. Joe G, man, he's freaky. He can sling it. Really just when he steps on the court, he's open. He's going to shoot the ball well. And, I think just in transition, what a piece he can be that really allows others to play off the ball. When you look at the things that they asked, from previous years and to really get going there, I'm excited to see what they can do because, as you said, so close. And I think everyone thinks or knows they should have been in the tournament with their record, the way they finished, the wins that they had. So I think that was a real shame, but this team is hungry and no question, I think, going to do really big things this year.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Joe right there with the way he impacts this offense. Something that I've always been able to understand and notice about this Brad Brownell offense in the past is sometimes in the half court it may be a little too slow to get things going, maybe a tad inconsistent with Gerard in this offense. With whether it was the Newberry scrimmage that they had that we were able to go see, or last night, the offense is moving. Everybody, it feels like there's a tempo and an urgency to them, and the offense really responds to that. I think it translates on the other side of the court with the defense. Man, it was fun. It is a different feel to this team, and I know we said that with Clemson football last year, so I don't want to get caught on my same words and potentially fall on my face again, but it does have a different feeling to it.
Yeah, no, it really does. And I think that's what's exciting, just to be able to get out, get in space, get in transition, let this team really run and, score a bunch of points, for such a defensive minded staff and obviously defensive minded coach. I do think we're going to see some high scoring games and this offense really flourish.
Absolutely. And Eric, I would love to circle back to football here before we wrap up, because there's some other ACC squads that you mentioned guys like Louisville or Florida State that we haven't really touched on today, but it looks like they're potentially squared up for the ACC championship here in Charlotte. What about Louisville that's impressed you? Because when you looked at their schedule in August, I saw a potential for this team to potentially win a ton of games, but not to this efficiency, not to this level. Obviously, upsetting Notre Dame at home was a big deal. The way this team's been able to rally around, I know they had, I think it was lost to Pittsburgh, if I'm not mistaken, but nonetheless, they're still in it. They're still second in this ACC race. And obviously, Florida State in this conference right now is king. But there's a lot of, when you look at the standings, a lot of diversity, there's not too many teams that are carrying potentially dead weight in this conference. There's a lot of talented teams out there, like you've mentioned.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And when you look at Louisville, I mean, the things that they've been able to do, we just didn't know preseason, right? You know, they have 40 plus new players, an entire new coaching staff, you know, and you just don't know how that's going to go. You don't know how it's going to mesh, who's going to step up, who's going to be playmakers, is the system going to work, all these different things. And it absolutely has. Those guys have been terrific. And they've adjusted, right? They've really, I think early in the season, again, similar to what I said about Georgia Tech, wanted to air it out, wanted to be a team that went deep and tried to take shots and score a bunch of points. And then they kind of sat back and realized, hey, we've got a really good defense. I mean, this defense can win us a bunch of games. They've had 2 shutouts on the season, which is an amazing accomplishment. One against a very good Duke team. They can get the ball, take away the ball, you know, force fumbles, get interceptions, get to the quarterback. I think they're first or second in the league in sacks. So, you know, this team is exceptional. The running attack ability has been great. Jawar Jordan is freaky. And I'm excited to see where this team can end up, man. They've got a very manageable schedule where they have Virginia next this coming weekend, at Miami, and then a Kentucky team that they haven't beaten a bunch of years, but they're at home. And they're a different team when they play at home, which is a great thing for Louisville. So I'm excited to see the potential momentum, potential top 10, maybe top 8 matchup in Charlotte, which is exactly what the ACC needs and wants from that game. And it'll be really fun to cover. And then on the other side, you look at those Noles, man, they're a great team, loaded with talent, you know, veteran leadership. When I look at their quarterback and especially Coach Norvell, kind of his culture that he's put in place there, the belief and the system, is tremendous, and they're playing at a very high level. I still think their best football is in front of them. I don't know if they played a full, complete, you know, game where they feel great about it, but that's still out there, and that's terrifying, you know, for other teams, because once they do meet that, these guys are going to be nearly unbeatable.
Absolutely, and the rankings come out. I think the second slate of rankings come out tonight, so we should see Florida State and Louisville in that top 12 area. It would be great for the ACC, just as a conference that's reputation in football isn't as mighty as maybe the SEC or Big Ten, but to potentially have a playoff implications matchup for both teams where, hey, the winner goes to the postseason and loser's a New Year's Six Orange Bowl bound team. So there's a lot of stakes heading into this final stretch of the year. But Eric, if there's anything you want to add before we wrap up, maybe drop some stuff about your podcast, Mac Lain, maybe.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Well, I appreciate that. You can check that out anywhere you get it on YouTube, anywhere you get your podcast, man, with KG and I. Just fun conversations. Got a lot of cool stuff up this week. This is a 4-episode week. So some cool content over there if you guys want to check it out. I appreciate you, man.
You guys absolutely will. I drop it in the description below, as well as Eric's Twitter, because, you know, you got to follow him for you got to see what he's thinking about Clemson football games. I always see it on my timeline. But guys, thank you as always for tuning in. I just want to address a little bit. We haven't had some episodes in the last couple of weeks. It's been really crazy with school and traveling for Clemson football, but once this kind of settles down, I think you guys should expect some weekly episodes. We're going to be talking NFL next week. I really want to get to that CJ Stroud character. Guy's pretty good out there. But guys, thanks as always for tuning into the Man with a Plan podcast, our second episode with Eric Mac Lain. Be sure to leave a like, comment, do all the things, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you as always. Have a great day and take care.